This is the SFF Audio Podcast.
This is Jesse.
And I'm Scott.
I invited Brian to come on the show. He's probably not coming on today.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't have a microphone. Embarrassing. So embarrassing. Oh, I've got Skype now, but no microphone. You need a microphone too?
we could stream his text.
Yeah, that's a great idea. If you want the show to be 7 hours.
In a video podcast.
Video but no audio. It'd be closed captioned podcasting.
That's right. That'll be good stuff.
Well, maybe they do it somewhere, but not here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's SFF video, although that's SFF a good idea for our website.
It is. Well,
quick,
we got a couple...
get the domain name. Hurry! Hurry, man! Hurry!
Already got. There we go. No.
It's like a movie channel or something. I don't know.
Right. Yep. YouTube. Lots of YouTube on SF Signal.
Yeah, they like YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of YouTube, but you don't want to go crazy now.
Yep. Well, I got two new releases for you.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is called The January Dancer.
Right.
By Michael Flynn. Read by Stefan Rudnicki. Came in from Blackstone Audio. Now, Michael Flynn is the guy who wrote Eifelheim, which we reviewed, or I reviewed a little while back. That one was about in the 1300s. It was about a priest, and then there was kind of a contemporary timeline going on with a physicist, and there were aliens, and it was cool.
Now, when you say you have it from me, what you actually mean is you're giving it to Julie, right?
Already done. It's already been dispatched.
Right. So, what a tease you are. What a tease.
You bet. Shall I tell you what it's about?
Sure, go for it.
All right. It's
tease me some more.
It is a space opera with stunningly successful results. Do you know more than that?
It's bragging. It's bragging about itself, boy.
The January Dancer tells the fateful story of an ancient pre-human artifact of great power and the people who found it. Starting with Captain Amos January, who quickly loses it, and then the others who fought, schemed, and killed to get it, we travel around the complex, decadent, brawling, mongrelized, interstellar human civilization that the artifact might save or destroy. Collectors want the dancer, pirates take it, rulers crave it, and all will kill, if necessary, to get it. This is the thrilling yarn of love, revolution, music, and mystery, and it ends, as all great stories do, with a shock and a beginning. That is it.
Sounds good.
So it's a space opera.
Yeah.
By Michael Flynn, about an object, a pre-human artifact.
Big, dumb object.
That says,
quick, get the domain name.
Get bagels. Get bagels.
Quick, get the domain name. Already taken. Somebody else has it.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds good. How come Julie gets it? How'd she get that?
Because she requested it a long, long time ago. She said she saw that the January Dancer was a new release somewhere, and said, "Ooh, I'd love to have that." And
yeah, but I've been here longer than her, so.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And I want it more. Can't you get it back from her?
I will talk to her.
All right, thank you.
All right. And the other one we got in is Earthfall by Orson Scott Card.
Which one is this series?
This is book 4 in the Homecoming series. We've talked about this several times because we've had a lot of the ones from this series come in.
Right.
Again, it's hard to read the back of these because in a series, you're spoiling the other ones by reading the back of book 4. So
Be careful.
be careful. So I think it's suffice to say this is book 4 in the Homecoming series, and we've talked about the Homecoming series at least twice.
And this is the series based on the Book of Mormon?
The Book of Mormon, yeah.
Okay.
Right. That's the one.
Got it.
That is the one.
Got it.
Right.
Speaking of biblically related text, I just finished the Book of Lies.
Oh, yeah.
By Brad Meltzer, and I have to say it was not what I expected, but it's not bad at all. And what I expected, I didn't really know what to expect. So it's kind of a good thing. I was wondering when I started it if it had any science fiction or fantasy content, and now that I finished it, I'm thinking not really, but you can't tell that from the start, and I think my interpretation could be the incorrect interpretation, and it's still good, and I think science fiction and fantasy fans will still like it quite a bit. Because it talks a lot about some real life facts, like the origins of Superman, the Superman character, and the origins in Joe Siegel's family, where it happened in his family that character became necessary in a way, and it's got a terrific ending, which I was not expecting. And it has a lot of twists and turns. You sort of get pushed into different directions thinking where it's going. And it didn't end up where I expected it to go. So that sounds... It's long story short, it's a very interesting take. It's more along the thriller line, and you know how we were talking last week, I guess it was, about mainstream. This is more of a mainstream book. It's Brad Meltzer's more of a legal thriller sort of. You pick him up on the line to pick up your groceries. He's very popular. And so he's not coming at it from a science fiction point of view. He's coming at it from a legal thriller point of view. It's not actually a legal thriller, but it's still a thriller of some kind. A merry chase of characters looking for something. It's kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark in a way. And I don't want to say any more than that without carefully wording it.
All right.
But in the same way, Raiders of the Lost Ark is not fully fantasy, right? Mm-hmm. This is not fully just a regular legal thriller.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
I'll write up a review for that sometime soon.
All right. Great.
Yep.
Well, this week, back to Orson Scott Card, this week I finished Ender in Exile.
Oh, that was fast.
The new Ender. Oh, it was good. Yeah.
I just heard his, there was an interview with him on a podcast just yesterday. I think that was on the Tor.com podcast.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll have to catch that. I've caught 2 interviews of him. I think they're both on his website. And, boy, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so we talked about the comics he's doing and
We?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought you were, like, talking to him.
Oh, no.
Gotcha.
No, the Ender in Exile, it's an interesting book because it's kind of he called it a mid-quill. Because the timeline, if you're familiar with the Ender series, the timeline is really messed up because of the relativistic effects of time travel. So
I don't think that's the only reason. I think that it's set it's set in between Speak for the Dead and Ender's Game, and of course those are the first and second books in the series. So
yeah, but at the same time, it's actually set between chapter 14 and 15 of Ender's Game.
Sorry, yeah.
But actually, it's also a sequel to Shadow of the Giant, which is the last book in the Shadow universe.
Right. Yeah.
Because Ender, at the end of Ender's Game, takes a relativistic flight that takes 40 years real time, but only a couple of years of his time.
Right.
All the events that happen in the Shadow series happen while he's in travel. So Ender is still 14 years old when he gets to this colony he goes to in this book. And all the events that happened in all the way, the 4 books, Ender's Shadow all the way through Shadow of the Giant, they all occurred while he was gone.
Right.
And yet he's still young. So, but it is a sequel to that as well. So that's why it's a odd book.
Yeah, it's being. I think that's what he said on the podcast, saying that it was increasingly difficult to keep track of what order you should read it in. Mm-hmm. If you were just starting the series.
Well, I'm always a fan. I don't know. I always read things in publication order, if at all possible.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what the author says about what order they need to read it in, that's what I always do.
I think that's probably the wisest, in the sense that I mean, unless they somehow published the first book second, you know, like
so they had the other one written,
right, and it just didn't sell, and then they published this next one completely text unaltered. Then I think that has happened like 1 or 2 times in publishing history. But yeah, I think publication order really has to be the only logical way to. I mean, even, you know, if you've got Tarzan of the Apes or something, and then you get a Tarzan prequel with Tarzan's parents, you still wanna read at last. I think he was saying something about first meetings being, you know, Ender's parents, and that technically comes in the timeline before any other book. Still, I don't think you want to read that first.
No, I don't think so either. And he's got numerous short stories now since he did the Intergalactic Medicine Show magazine.
Right.
He's been publishing short stories, Ender short stories, you know, once a quarter, basically.
Hey,
so,
what's happened with their audio program? Are they not doing audio in the last couple of issues?
No, I haven't seen any audio in any of their issues since the first couple. Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
But there is an audiobook coming out called The Best Of. Well, not The Best Of it. You know that Intergalactic Medicine Show anthology? Mm-hmm. It's come out on audio.
Hey, does it include a Best Of including yours?
No, it doesn't include mine, unfortunately.
You're not the best of, dude.
Well, it's not a best of collection. It's just a collection. It doesn't say best of.
So they're waiting for the best of then. So this is like the second best of.
Yeah, they're saving my story for the ultra super best of.
Actually, you know,
best of decade.
It didn't come to mind last time we were talking about stories, but I think that's exactly what I wrote about your story. I was saying that it was a great story, but not a great story of science fiction. It was a great story of mainstream fiction using science fiction trappings, because the payoff is not a science fiction one. There's lots of science fiction in sort of Lovecraftian horror elements, but but that's not where the story was. That was where the story was set.
Yeah, I
remember me saying something like that?
Yeah, I do.
So,
yeah,
there you
go. I agree. And what we're talking about is a story I wrote called Adrift, and it's in issue 2 of the Intergalactic Medicine Show.
Making you an officially semi-pro writer or pro writer.
Right.
Of some kind. So
I need to get way more busy than I am now, writing more.
Mo busy.
Yeah. See, there's your voice actor.
That's not great, I'm sorry to say.
It was brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. But anyway, Ender in Exile, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
It's one of the better books in the entire series. So, which to me says a lot because I love those books.
That does say a lot.
If you look at it overall, the first 3 books of the whole Ender series, Ender's Game, and then Speaker for the Dead, and then Xenocide. I really liked all 3 of those a great deal, and it was I found them really interesting because they're so different. Ender's Game is one type of novel, and Speaker for the Dead is a totally different type of novel. So, I mean, if you like Ender's Game, it doesn't mean that you're going to like Speaker for the Dead.
Right.
He didn't write the same book again. But they both won the Hugo and the Nebula Award in their respective years, which was interesting because they were so totally different.
Right.
And then Xenocide is a little more... there's one track of that book that's kind of a deep religious implications that I enjoyed that. Then Children of the Mind was the 4th one, and I was, didn't think that it was wonderful. I thought it was fine, but I wasn't thrilled with it. And then it stayed there for a long time. And then he wrote Ender's Shadow, which was magnificent.
Yeah, I've read that one.
I really loved it. Did you like it?
I did.
Cool.
I think I gave it a positive review, too.
Yeah, I think so. And then he wrote Shadow of the Hegemon, which I was lukewarm about again. And then those volumes got successively more interesting, in my opinion. Shadow the Giant was excellent, which was the last one of those 4. And then this Ender in Exile is wonderful as well. So, they asked, somebody asked him if he was going to do more, and the answer is probably yes, he said, because Tor loves them. So they sell, he said, which is good for my family.
Yeah, well, you just put an Ender thing on it, and somebody's gonna be very excited.
It is, yeah. But it's well worth reading. He's not just churning stuff out.
He's a good writer. I think that's the key is he writes well. So the chances are that it's going to be a good story.
Yeah.
There was what was that one from Mr. Audiobook? The audiobook company that produced two audiobooks, one by Orson Scott Card.
And right. Eye for Eye was one.
Eye for Eye?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was terrific.
Yeah, it was really great.
Anything coming out from that little company?
That won a Hugo Award, I think.
Really?
Yeah, the story, not the audio, but the story, yeah.
And what was the Harlan Ellison one called?
Run for the Stars.
Boy, you got a great memory.
Oh, I love those 2.
Yeah, me too.
I was so excited, because, I listened to them both.
I love little novellas like that, and
excellent.
Boy, they were terrific.
Yeah.
I wish that company was doing some more. I really like it.
Yeah, me too. I'm not sure what happened there.
Perfect. Like 3 CDs long. Wow. Great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's
so refreshing over the 40-hour CDs. I've been listening to Tony Smith talking about trying to get through Anathema.
Is he still listening?
Yeah, he's still listening to Anathema, and
and I started that this week, and
it's big.
It is big, and it's I don't know. I listened to Snow Crash and The Diamond Age on audio. Absolutely terrific on audio.
I think this might not be a great one for audio.
And that's what I'm thinking, because they released Quicksilver on audio, and I could not, for the life of me, get through that thing. And it was abridged too, but it was like a 20-hour abridgment.
Holy cow!
Now Quicksilver is the first book of its trilogy that, a lot of people complained about it because it wasn't really science fiction. But I've got all 3 books. I haven't read them all yet, but it's more of a kind of an alternate history type of a thing, or it may not even be alternate. It's got real people and characters in there, and he's making a lot of points about I'm not sure what.
Right.
But then Anathema is, the audiobook starts out with the reading of. In fact, hold on a second, because I actually have the hardcover book from the library, because I saw it at the library and I said, "Oh, quick, hey, I'll pick it up." So I've got it here, and the opening of the book is a timeline. It says 2850, Temple of Orithena, founded by Adracones, the
Right.
father of geometry. They read all that. So you're your eyes have glazed over because you have no idea,
You need that.
you have no, it's just a list of dates and
but you need to
names
be
and
able to
stuff that
flip
you
back
really don't
to
know.
that.
But it's something that in the hardcover book you can refer to.
Right. And that's what Tony was saying.
Oh, was it?
Tony's listening to the audiobook of Anatheman, and a friend of the show, who I can't remember his name, he's on the engine room with Tony. He's a narrator for the show. He's reading the paper version, and they were comparing notes, and it sounds like it's one of the few books that should be read in paper, even though it's 900 pages long.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can't disagree. I'm 2 CDs in, and a little bit lost. It's hard to kind of hold on to the threads of what he's doing.
Right.
Because the world is so odd and it's very complex, and it's
Tony was saying that he was really glad to have a summary, because that explained a lot of the book to him from the other guy. It's like set in a planet full of monasteries, a bunch of intellectual, bookish people in the monasteries, and all the regular non-bookish people out in the regular world.
Yeah.
And they don't really meet up except very occasionally.
Yeah, I got to talk to Bill DeFries just really briefly, and I said, "Man, that Anathem looked like a marathon." And he said, "Yes, it was." I remember in the early days of that audiobook list, it was right when we had started SFF Audio, and I had reviewed Red Mars for SF site.
Right.
And then we talked to Richard Ferrone on, I'm pretty sure it was you and I, just via email.
Could have been.
And I asked him about Kim Stanley Robinson, because he read, for recorded books, he did Red Mars and Green Mars and Blue Mars. And he said that was a tough thing to do, because those books are really excellent. I mean, in fact, I haven't read the other two. I've only read the Red Mars. And it is so densely packed full of stuff that I remember the comment I made when I reviewed it is it just astounded me that one person had written this thing, because the amount of research and the amount of stuff you have to know and the amount of things you need to be interested in to throw all that into one book was really amazing to me. And so you're reading a lot of descriptions, and in Red Mars, and he said, yeah, that was a marathon, because he had to read all three of them.
Right.
So trying to make that not dry, because the people that are interested in that are normally readers.
Yeah, it's not a normal book, and I tried to sit down and read the paperback version. I think it was on a summer day, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna have to save this for a winter's night, because it's not light reading material. It's very densely packed. It's got a lot of, as you say, description, and the characters. There's lots of characters. There's lots of plot to follow. It's
Yes.
not a breezy novel.
No, it is not. No. So, with Anathem, back to Neil Stephenson, because Snow Crash and The Diamond Age were such wonderful audiobooks, and I highly recommend either of those two, because those, he's so quirky and stylistic, and it came through just fine in those two audiobooks. The first one was Snow Crash was read by Jonathan Davis, and The Diamond Age by Jennifer Wiltsey, if I remember, who's a name that I don't know from anywhere else,
No.
but she was really fabulous. Because the Diamond Age is all Victorian. Have you read either of those?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Anyway, they're wonderful audiobooks. Absolutely great. No problem following those at all. In fact, I would recommend them on audio.
Mm-hmm.
But Anathem, I'm afraid, is turning out more like Quicksilver, as far as how to listen to it, or listening to it. It's not. Anyway, I'm not going to give up on it or anything, because heck, I may kind of read it and listen to it at the same time. I think
that if you've got a paper version, that might actually make sense. You have it there handy, because there are footnotes or something that are not easy to handle.
Yeah. Oh, remember Cryptonomicon? The Cryptonomicon, they came out with unabridged excerpts of the novel.
Is that...
do you remember that?
With William
It's
Gibson?
still available on Audible. A lot of people complained about it, but...
Right.
They might have done that with Anathem.
Yeah, that was from Fantastic Audio, right?
Yeah. And then rather than abridge the novel, they weren't going to put out the whole thing.
Yeah.
They took sections of the novel and read them unabridged, and then summarized in between. And that was an interesting way to do it. I thought it was appropriate for that book. I don't know how else they could have done it other than coming out unabridged. But that book was 1,000 pages long.
Whoa!
Yeah, he has a lot to say.
I guess
Stevenson.
So.
And
then I'm going to say something
900
like, what about his editor abridging it, not abridging it, editing it, and then the editor says, that is edited! It was a 4,000-page book before.
Wow. I'm just looking through. In fact, I looked on the back page here to find out how long the book is. It's 935 pages. This is Anathem. And there are diagrams back here. There are three sections. Okay, there's a glossary.
Right.
It starts about page 900. And then there is something called Calca 1, Cutting the Cake, a supplement to Anathem by Neil Stevenson. And then there's all kinds of diagrams and stuff here.
Yeah.
Little mathematical puzzles and interesting. But I don't see any way to translate these into audio, so I'm assuming they will be ignored.
I would assume so.
Yeah. Have you ever read a book and then listened to it later on audio?
Of course.
Yeah, so we do that all the time. I find that a really good experience too.
Well, I think that's what they used to say about the abridgments, the 2 cassette abridgments. They said, well, people just, they want to experience the book again, and this is another way for them to do that. So they don't, that was their excuse for not abridging books well, was like, it's not meant to be a book. It's meant to be an experience of the book.
Yeah.
2 cassette abridgment of it.
Anathem might be one of those. If you read it and then
I think that makes sense audiobook, in a way. Yeah.
But by the way, Bill DeFries is really does a great job with it.
He usually does a good job.
Yeah.
I was considering Scott Brick did the Book of Lies, and I was thinking sometimes I'm not sure if it's the book who's making me feel a certain way or if it's Scott Brick. And I think that William DeFries is like that too. Sometimes I'm not sure who is eliciting the emotional response from me, if it's the narrator or the author, because it can, like, if you have read it in paper before and then you hear someone else's interpretation of it, you can get a different emotional reaction from a scene that is probably due to the narrator. Right?
Sure, yeah.
So,
I can't disagree with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Ender in Exile, by the way, was read by a whole team of people. Rudnicki's whole stable or whatever you want to call them.
The hit team.
I really like. I love the way Rudnicki does audiobooks. You know,
Yeah, he's
they're all.
he's a
really
connoisseur, right?
good. Yeah, for certain. Yeah.
So, did you listen to that CBC documentary I posted about this week? CBC
I have
podcast.
not.
It's
I have not.
it's called The History of English in 28 Minutes, and
Yeah, I saw that post and I was like, well, that sounds interesting, but I haven't got to it yet.
it's SFF content is pretty low. It uses they say, oh, we only have 28 minutes, we better get the time machine out, and they travel back to not 1066, but well before that, and talk about all the different invasions that basically caused English to come to be.
Oh, how neat.
Yeah, and then we get the sort of standard introduction to Old English, so we get to hear some Beowulf and some Canterbury Tales, and lots of little side trips here and there to see all the additions of new words and new word sounds into English. And it's not really a regular new kind of post for us, but I wanted to put it on there just because it's kind of interesting to sort of understand where the words come from. I mean, I do it all day long looking things up in the dictionary, but just when you're listening to an old fantasy novel or a new fantasy novel, and they're giving characters names, if those names don't have a consistent naming scheme, if they're not all from the same language root, you'll get a sort of a dissonance that doesn't match. Just for some reason you can't tell what's wrong. But really what it is the author is not following some sort of consistent pattern. And I find that that's more common with the Tolkien clones rather than something that happens in science fiction. It's more of a sword and sorcery fantasy problem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I would like to listen to that.
Well, go for it. It's a podcast.
I will do it. Yeah. I've got a lot to listen to. You're adding more to my podcast.
Sorry.
I've still got to listen to Conan.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think right after last podcast, I posted a story about the Hour of the Dragon podcast. This is the only novel written by Robert E. Howard. Somebody picked up the challenge from second SFF Audio Challenge. Is now podcasting The Hour of the Dragon, which is the only novel written by Robert E. Howard, also the only Conan novel. And he's just started off, and he's still researching the correct pronunciations of a few things, but it sounds pretty good.
Good.
That's what I want.
That is good.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, check out, we've got a review there by Julie of a book called Already Dead, which
Right, I remember.
really enjoyed the review. It was read by Scott Brick, and yeah. Anyway, it's kind of a noir detective novel with vampires and zombies in it. Anyway,
I've never read a Charlie Huston novel.
No.
Before?
Yeah, Charlie Huston.
I think it's Huston. It's Huston.
Is it? Huston, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yep.
But yeah, she was comparing it
Anyway,
to
nice
Elmore
review,
Leonard
nice review.
She was saying Double Indemnity with Billy Wilder, Raymond Chandler, and that'd be James M. Cain too, who's sort of the granddaddy of modern noir.
Oh.
So yeah, it sounds like a good one. How'd she end up with that in her hands? She's got January Dancer. She took Already Dead.
Hey, you get the list, except for January Dancer never hit the list, but the Already Dead was on the list.
Yeah, but see, I thought when we brought her on that she wouldn't be stealing all the good ones.
Well, I will talk to her about that. See
Thank
if
you.
we can
Yeah.
send her some things that are not good.
Yeah, make her review some of the boring ones, okay?
All right, will do.
Thanks.
Will do. Yep. Hey, and speaking of interesting ones, my son posted his first review. Too.
Yeah, and what a good little review it is. I really
great.
I think he did a really good job. And I'm assuming you give him some help there. Is that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, good.
yeah, a little bit,
He said, this is what you need
but
to do, Dad,
not much. I mean, all those words are his, really.
yeah, it's really well done.
So, yeah, well, good. Yeah, he's got another one coming out next week of a YA book. What was it called? Simon Bloom. Simon Bloom, something about gravity.
Okay,
Anyway, that'll be posted probably Tuesday.
looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I really like the cover on the Elantris.
Yeah,
as
me
well.
too. That was really, really nice cover. And yeah, and it's not
I
the one.
really like what they're doing with this sci-fi audio imprint
Right.
ordered
Yeah,
books.
me too. Have you checked out their new stuff lately?
I haven't. I also haven't seen what's new at Audible, and I know that means probably 30 or 40 things have gone by,
Oh yeah.
which is
Yeah, I found an RSS feed. If you go to Audible, there's an RSS feed where they'll post everything that's new,
we should
and then you can kind
definitely
of
put that in
keep
the
your eye on it.
show notes.
Yeah,
here.
I've put it on my reader.
Good. I want that too.
Let's see, just some new things. The newest stuff on the Recorded Books Sci-Fi imprint. Is Love in the Time of Fridges by Tim Scott.
Don't know that one.
Don't know that one either. Deluge by Anne McCaffrey and Elizabeth Ann Scarborough. 40 Signs of Rain by Kim Stanley Robinson. Also narrated by Richard Ferrone.
Now that one I know. That came out a couple of years ago at least, but that was I think the second to last book he did. Kim Stanley Robinson.
Okay.
Another environmental. I think that's the one with polar bears loose in Washington D.C. D.C. got flooded or something, and the zoo animals escaped, and I think that's the one.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know it is environmental.
Yeah, he's
40 Signs of Rain,
really
and then
into
there was,
that, and he always
there was
has been.
another book after it. Yeah, he has. Even Red Mars.
No, well before that too.
Oh.
Yeah, like the first novel I read by him, Pacific Edge, I think it was called. Very good, very ahead of its time and well written. Utopian science fiction, utopian dystopian science fiction.
Great.
Really good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, they've got another Haldeman coming out on December 19th.
I want
called
that.
The Coming by Joe Haldeman. Well, I'll
Coming.
check with Julie to see if she wants it.
That's nice. You're so mean.
That's good stuff. Okay, Dust by Elizabeth Bear. This is at least the second Elizabeth Bear.
Yeah. I think I previewed that or mentioned it on the Elizabeth Bear website.
Okay.
The Elizabeth Bear subpage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mentioned that they had picked up too.
All right. And then we got one called, the last one looks like it won't be released till January 23rd, but it's called Moth Storm the Horror from Beyond, written by Philip Reeve. Yeah, I really have no idea. I'm clicking on it here to see if it's a young adult book. Author of the widely acclaimed Larklight books, Philip Reeve won the Golden Nestle Smarties Book Prize.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that book prize.
Well, you know what? I bet that's cash money.
It might be, yeah.
And you know what?
Shortlisted, yeah.
That's the real kind of awards. I keep. I was listening to Tony Smith's got his own awards for.
Yeah,
he's
I
just
noticed
had a
that.
year of podcasts, and he's had some great stuff on his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I just think back to the original set of what was it, 2006 Hugos. he had on his show, and he's had some terrific stuff on there. It's gonna be a hell of a competition to see what the best stuff is. You know, the best short story, best flash fiction, best poetry, all that stuff. But long story short, his award is just an award in name only. A real award is an award of cash money. That's
big bucks.
You know, where you put your money where your mouth is. You know, the Booker Prize is an actual prize. The prize money actually makes a difference to the author, and the author says, "Yes, I won money." You know, awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that's why we don't have a prize. We have a designation. You know, essential designation. It's not a prize because it's not an award because we got no money to give you. But if we did,
you bet. You know what I want out of those 6 titles? I want Love in the Time of Fridges by Tim Scott.
It's a good title, and
it's narrated by George Wilson.
Oh, I haven't heard from him in a while. That'd be good.
Yeah, so he's still active. It says it's a hilarious science fiction novel. Booklist calls him one of the genre's most promising and original new voices in years. It's in a strange world where living refrigerators exist in herds like wild animals. Seattle has become a coddled city beset by irrational fears. Enter ex-cop Huckleberry, who's about to see his life take a turn for the weird when he stumbles into a dangerous conspiracy and the fridges become his only friends.
Wow. Now I want that one too.
I want to listen to that.
That is really strange.
Anticipated release December 19th.
That is really strange.
Recorded Books has finally, this year, they finally ended up on Audible.
Yeah.
So,
finally.
Audible's got just about everybody now. Just about.
And they're really good. I was talking to Steen. You know, Steen's back. He's back in the neighborhood for a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was telling him this wonderful idea I had to solve the DRM problem. So one of the really big issues with DRM is not it's not that DRM is inherently evil. It's that its application always ends up making it evil. And one of the good examples is so there's the Zune store, you know, for Microsoft Zune.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's basically a very parallel thing to iTunes. But Zune isn't doing the business that iTunes is doing. And when you buy a song from iTunes or you buy an audiobook from iTunes, you own it only in the sense that you have access to it. But if iTunes goes under, you no longer have access to your own file.
True. Yeah.
If they turn off the servers for the Zune store, you lose access to the music that you've purchased.
Mm-hmm.
So what this is doing, this is a change in the ownership model of products, right? That what the companies are saying is we don't actually own the songs. What we own is a license to listen to the songs for an indefinite period, depending on how long the company keeps the servers on or how interested you are in trying to break it out of the DRM. And even then, that's illegal under some proposed legislation. So the real problem here is by changing that access, we're changing what the meaning of ownership is. I was thinking there is a way around this. So if you have a stable system that's not going to go out of business, if Audible doesn't go out of business, which is impossible because everything goes out of business, governments and countries and species at some point, you want to find the most stable system, the one that doesn't go away. Corporations go out of business much faster than a lot of things come and go. So I was thinking this is a job of government. This should be a government job. Basically treating it like a universal library where we have access to government servers. If you want to keep DRM so that people can have access to their files for an indefinite time, government is the best keeper of those files. What do you think of this so far?
Well, it's interesting, except for having it be a government function.
I knew you would say that.
How did you know that?
Well, two reasons. Number one, people generally think that government is not good at anything. And number two, you're an American, and you definitely think the government is not good at anything.
Well, I definitely have reasons for that at this point.
Well, I can sort of see what you're saying there. However, let me give you a counterclaim to that. Do you think your local library is good at keeping books?
Sure. Yes.
Right. And they do a good job of not losing most of the books that they're given. That'd be what I'd be talking about. So if you want to have access to, what you do is when you buy a file, right? You buy an audiobook from Audible. The audiobook should be available not from the only on the Audible servers, but at your local library server. And when Audible goes out of business, it suddenly takes all the DRM off of the audiobook and leaves it at your local library, so you still have access to it, so that you can download it. I'm not talking about having a hard copy, just a downloadable version, just like the Audible server has. Because really, after the company goes out of business, there's no way for them to sue you. So why would we want to continue the the inaccessibility? You'd still have to have, your personal identity number or whatever. But the models for digital distribution can be found, I think, very interestingly in video games. So there's a new game coming from EA, coming from next year, called Battlefield Heroes. This is going to be a free game. It's massively multiplayer or something similar, at least 60 players, like Battlefield 2. But it's going to be a free game, distributed digitally. They make their money by selling you in-game features. This is how they do games in Asia very popularly. The game is free, but you pay for access to premium services within the game. And there's a game in South Korea, called Sudden Attack. This is, if you talk to any Korean kid, they all know this game very well because they're all playing it. This game is available only by typing in what's the equivalent of your social security number. You type in your social security number. If you're old enough to play it, you can download the game. If you're like 12 years or under, there's no blood. When you turn 16 or something, it turns the blood on, right? But the main point of the it's a first-person shooter. The main way they make money is by selling you in-game services like access to premium weapons and such. This is a really efficient way to distribute the game. Makes the game extremely popular, and it also saves, thousands and thousands of wasted dollars that would be going to making CD copies and doing disc checks and all the stuff that's involved in a regular disc access. There's a similar service for digital distribution in video games, PC games, on a service called Steam, which is a way of delivering games like Fallout 3 and any of the other Half-Life style games to your desktop without buying the physical disc. You just go to Steam, you put in your credit card, you buy the game. But Steam is DRM. It just is DRM that's transparent. It works well. So DRM is evil only because it makes something that you own inaccessible, right? We call that evil because that's stealing something that you already own. If I can't get access to something that I bought because the company's, thrown away not just the key, but thrown away the box that they were keeping the item in, I'm mad.
Uh-huh.
So one way to solve this is make all the files that are being downloaded, access to the new movie, put on a server. Once you've paid for it, scan in your receipt, or how about this? You get a unique identity key from the company that you bought the product from. So if you wanted to watch Wall-E, right, when you buy the disc, oftentimes they now have a digital copy of the film with it. How about this? You just buy access to the thing and download it from your local library, where they actually have a copy that's not going to go away when Disney goes bust or some other company goes bust. How's
Okay.
that?
Well,
It's still not allaying your fears of governments screwing things up.
no, government is definitely not good at stuff. That's for certain. But I mean, the concept of that. I guess it's not something that I'm terribly concerned about.
Okay.
The most important
your
things to
Audible
me, I
files.
keep. What's that?
Of all the Audible files you have, all the audiobooks.
Uh-huh.
If Audible went out of business tomorrow, what would happen to them?
Well, they'd be gone, but
That's right.
the ones that are important to me, I still have.
Audible exclusives, all the Audible exclusives.
No, I don't. I don't think I collect like you do, but I mean, I keep my favorite ones.
You're keeping them in.
I remember reading one
hard
time Cory Doctorow was mentioning that, he was converting all of his stuff to MP3, and sometimes he's got two computers busy doing that at once.
Right.
I don't know that I would do that, but no, I understand what you're saying, though.
But see, I think that's
the need to have a central place, but why can't you do that yourself, I guess, is my question.
That's the point. Is if we are doing that ourselves, that's a huge waste. I mean, think of how many millions of man-hours are wasted in doing something that shouldn't have to be done. Converting Audible files to be playable on non-standard.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. So if
not-
DRM didn't exist, then this wouldn't be an issue, right?
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because it would be available on a server somewhere else, right? But the point is if I just finished the Starship Series number 3 called Mercenary, I think, by Mike Resnick. This is only available through Audible.com.
Right.
I don't have. I have a copy on my hard drive right now, but if I did a clean install, I'd have to download the game, not the game. I'd have to download the copy again from the Audible service. If Audible went out of business tomorrow, I would suddenly lose access.
You wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to have it saved somewhere. And what you're saying is, if everybody has that same book saved, that's really a waste of time and money.
No, I'm not even saying if everybody has it saved. If I don't have it saved, right? If I get a new computer tomorrow, because this one's busted, the hard drive's busted, and Audible's out of business, I have no access to something I own.
Sure.
And that's not because it's physically impossible. It's because I didn't do all these extra steps to make it accessible. Think of it this way: if books were published on paper that turned yellow and black and then black within 30 days of purchasing, we wouldn't have Shakespeare. This is a bad thing. Libraries have traditionally been the places where we store these things. In a way, it's incredibly inefficient to go to Best Buy and buy a copy of Wall-E on DVD. It's much easier just to download a copy from iTunes. But if iTunes goes bust, I mean, it's
Well,
been,
iTunes doesn't let you re-download anything anyway. It's up to you. When you buy a copy of, say, Wally, and you
I think you're
download
right.
it, that is yours to deal with. They don't allow you to download it again. There's no
I think
way
you
to
may
do
be
it.
right about that. I don't know about iTunes audiobooks though. Is that true? From the audiobook store?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's true with everything they've got.
Wow.
They tell
Audible
you.
keeps it. You have still have
Yeah,
access.
Audible keeps it in a list, and you can go in there and download it again.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never bought an audiobook through iTunes, but now I never will, because I can tell you, computers, people's hard drives crash, and that's it.
Yeah, they make it really clear that, hey, this is yours to deal with, and say, yeah, if you want a backup of this, you need to back it up.
But
In fact,
that's
it gives you,
stupid.
it pops up a message and says that.
That's stupid. I mean, if once I buy, the Beatles album, I don't want to keep buying Beatles albums for the next 60 years. I would just want to have
And
access.
that's a problem too. I mean, how many times have you bought? I don't know. Before DVDs, there was VHS tapes. So
And Laserdiscs.
you bought something on VHS, yeah, and so you bought something on that, and then you maybe bought it again on VHS. And
But
you
that's a
bought it
real
again.
false economy. It's a real false economy. And one of the things we're just starting to worry about now is, if you have access to Adobe Photoshop because you own a copy, when you die, who gets to have that? It's part of your estate. But if nobody has the password except for you because you forgot it and you didn't write it down, then nobody really has access to it. Part of your estate is missing.
Yeah.
And digital estates are becoming something actually of importance, because more and more of our wealth is protected not by a lock and key in your house, but by a password and access to a server that you may or may not know about, that your family members have. So these things are in the forefront. But if it comes to stability, we put faith in our governments to keep the dollar solid. And
True.
no matter how bad governments get, at least in North America, we still don't suddenly switch to another form of currency. We don't say, you know what, that peso is outperforming the dollar. I think I'll switch to that. Governments can do things right, even though that's very popular to say they can't. In a case where you've got just the access of a library and a digital downloading system, it's not impossible for government to do a good job. It just seems unlikely, given that a gun registry is a massive bureaucracy. It might scare people. This is not the same thing. This is not a we're not trying to prevent people downloading things digitally illegally. What we're trying to do is make sure people who have legal access to something don't lose access to it. And you could do that by charging a fee, or you could do that by charging a fee to the corporations that produce the content originally.
Therefore, well, I guess I see your point, but if you're going to charge a fee for people to use it, why not have a company do it?
Because the whole point is
The company will go out of business.
Right?
But what if
government
the
never goes out of business? That's happened in Somalia. Canada's government has been going for 200 years, and the U.S. government has been going something like that as well. They are not tending to go out of business too frequently. The U.S. Army has not suddenly disappeared overnight. They might lose a few things. Their toilets might cost $10,000 each, but they don't tend to go out of business. Once something's started, it generally is not taken away. And it doesn't have to be one hard drive in Ottawa or Washington that keeps a copy of everything. This is just community community server farm, right? That is administered by access through a governmental system. Just so digital copies don't. We spend thousands of dollars on CD backups and DVD backups to back up things we already own. This is not very efficient. It's not going to be the new trend. I mean, the new trend is to download it from the company server. But if the company goes out of business, it becomes abandonware. You can't get access to it except through hard copies that are out there on people's hard drives. And that's not an efficient way to do it.
Sure.
Okay, so I got really sidetracked here. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
But it just came to me that the one way to, if you want to have DRM, you have to make it accessible for when the company goes out of business and the DRM is still hurting access.
Yeah. I would much rather just not have DRM.
But it's possible it's going to go that way, but I don't see that happening in a smooth transition like in 6 months or something. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Speaking of DRM, I talked to Steve Feldberg of Audible.
Audible? Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I asked him if the Starship Book 4 in the Mike Resnick series is going to be out, and he said mid-December, so pretty soon. Yeah, really
terrific
series. You should get this first book series because I guarantee you'll like it.
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds real good. I'm a Resnick fan too. I just think he's great. The more I read by him, the better I like him.
Yeah, and like I was saying, it's not a hard science fiction in any way. It's space opera with no original science fiction ideas, but doesn't make it not good. It's a good writer.
This has been the SFF Audio Podcast. Please join us at www.sffaudio.com.